Mark, first of all, it's great to be here with you and to talk about the club as a whole. First of all, what made you want to get involved with Weymouth Football Club?
Thanks, Teddy. Yeah, it's great for you to come today and perhaps share some time with me. And I'd love to share the time with the fans and the wider community, just to give them a kind of a glimpse behind the scenes, if you like, at Weymouth Football Club and how we're looking to change the club in terms of its vision and outlook. So thank you. Yes, why am I involved? So originally born and bred in Dorset. I'm a football fan through and through. Started watching Bournemouth as a lad, 1969. Had quite a bit of involvement in the 80s with Weymouth as a fan. Had a good friend of mine whose father and himself used to go to Weymouth every week, and I had a kind of an arrangement with them that they come and watch Bournemouth some weeks and I come and watch Weymouth. So had some background. In between that, I had immigrated to Canada, set up a successful business, sold that, and then came back to the UK and got involved in the football industry. Worked with several clubs in investment and also in trying to help restructure those clubs. So that journey brought me to Weymouth about a year ago, where I approached the board and Ian White as chairman, and basically felt that there was an opportunity to help with my experience in football, and also maybe with some investment into the area of operating the club. In terms of, Weymouth was a club that I thought was going places, had just done back-to-back promotions from Southern League through to the National League South and into the National League, but also being in the football business for a number of years, I did see the challenges that lay ahead for the club. So wanted really to get involved to help lend my experience into that field.
Yeah, so you've been with us for just around a year now. What have you seen behind the scenes that maybe things can improve? Obviously on the pitch, we're now going into the National League South, but obviously it would be great to see the club rebuild and go up stronger than it did obviously 2 seasons ago. What needs to change behind the scenes, or what can you use your input to help the club with? Yeah,
no, you're right, Ted. I mean, look, I was under no illusions that this season was always going to be a challenge. And when it comes to, if you like, the nuts and bolts and the nitty gritty, it has been a challenge, and we have to take that experience now that we've had from the National League. I mean, we are now basically competing, or have been competing, in the National League at a professional level. In terms of the clubs that we're competing against, we're probably one of the smallest budgets, if not the smallest budget in the division. So that has its challenges in terms of how we can operate and do that. But what we can do to get back, and I'm under no illusions that we can get back. We have a fantastic supporter base. We have a great community that wants to support and get behind the club. All those are great assets to the club, and I think we can get behind both the manager and his team in the pre-season. That needs to be restructured on the football side. David's come into the club at a situation where he's inherited a squad from a previous manager. He's now able to really work in the pre-season with Tom Donati, his assistant, and his coaching staff, to really develop a squad that really is in their own making. I'm sure there'll be some restructuring of that squad and really forming a squad that's fit for purpose to go back into the National League South, from the National League South, and into the National League at a far better level than we've exited. Off the pitch, we need to also restructure. We need to do things in terms of interacting with our fan base better. We need to operationally change things, the way we do things, just to make ourselves more professional in terms of our outlook and the way that we operate.
Yeah, so you go on about the financials and how perhaps we're the smallest budget, but is that something in which the club has sort of got itself into in terms of kind of the current structure, the current financial structure, and can that in itself sustain itself, or will there need to be extra investment and maybe a couple of bits of reshuffling behind the scenes in terms of the expenditure that the club is using, but also the amount of money that we can get in through sponsorship and other investment?
Yeah, I think it's a combination really of all of the things that you've mentioned. If I can just highlight a couple of things, I think, you know, not being disrespectful to anybody that's been involved in the club and has helped the club to get where it's at. I don't think that the model the club found itself in the National League was the right model for the National League. So the club was always had its challenges from that point of view. So to answer your question, there has to be changes made within the infrastructure model of the club, the day-to-day operation, the way that we look at things financially, and also the ways that we look to maybe get more partners involved with the club. I'm very, very keen to get more of the local business community involved, national companies that we've introduced this year. I'd like to keep them. I'd like to be able to, you know, make Weymouth Football Club an absolute pleasure to be around in terms of a business environment and also a fan perspective. So there's that element that we want to address. I think from a fan's point of view, it's absolutely frustrating that we've gone down this year, and you know, I do appreciate the fantastic support that everybody has given. I've seen it myself. I go to most away games. I think the people that follow the club home and away have done a fantastic job for the club. I know David really appreciates that on the football side. We do as a board. So all that helps and is crucial to us all going forward. What we need to do is we need to start all working together in terms of pushing that positive vibe out for the club. The frustrating bit is that, and it's going to sound a cliche, but I do really believe that it's better for us to be able to restructure down in the National League South than trying to stay at a level above and do the same thing. And I really do sincerely think that we can look at ourselves, restructure the club. And I'm going to say something that's really important here. Financially making sure it's sustainable. That's the important thing going forward, that the club is always within its own means and is sustainable. But also at the same time, I think it's important to attract investment into that model. And also then to come back, if we are to come back into the National League, I'd like to come back looking upwards rather than are we going to survive?
So obviously there's been quite a bit of financial burden this season. Obviously, I think we can go back to a couple months ago where we didn't have a home game for a whole month. Obviously that's going to affect cash flow, as a number of fans will be fully aware of, and the fact that, you know, a lot of our income does come from ticket sales on match days. And what has been done behind the scenes to help ease that financial burden so that the playing staff and everyone involved can still go and operate as normal? Yeah,
it's been a huge challenge. It really has, and you know, we're not sort of. I'm not sitting here making excuses or looking for people to share that sort of angst with me. But you know, for a club to have, I think it was one home game in 7 weeks. I don't, and I've been involved in football a long time. I don't know any club, probably outside the Premier League, that, unless they've got a really rich benefactor, that wouldn't struggle in terms of cash flow over that period of time. And so the challenge again has been for us to be able to try and keep the club on the pitch as competitive as possible, keep our integrity as a club to finish the season, but also to make sure that we're able to cash flow the club through to the end of the season and beyond. And you know, I'm happy to say that we've now been able to get into that position, that we're finishing the season in a position where we managed to do that. Yes, it has meant that I've had to help out in terms of maybe providing some facility into the club to do that. But I've only done that on the you know, self-assurance that I know that the club has a future and that we're able to really positively move ahead.
Talking of kind of the more on-the-field stuff, obviously we brought in David Oldfield and also Tom Donati, two members of our staff who are really much appreciated by the fan base, and we can definitely see the progress that the club is going under their stewardship. But how can they be best supported this summer to move into, obviously, the National League South, a division that David will know well with his time at Oxford City?
Absolutely.
So how can he be best supported by not only yourself and the board members, but also the fan base in terms of moving into what will be maybe not the chapter that everyone would have wanted to go into come the start of this season, but how can they be best supported?
Look, again, moving away from the disappointment of the relegation in this past season, I think David is the right man, and supported by Tom and his backroom staff. They are absolutely the right people to take this club forward, I believe, on the football side. Hopefully the fan base will look at that and agree as well. Again, not defending the record, because it has been a tough season for, we've had two managers and both have had tough seasons. There's no getting around the results. But David has an idea of how to restructure this club and how to get it again very competitive for the National League South and whatever division that we're playing in. He knows the game really well. He's supported by a network of potentially good recruitment. I say recruitment is probably the key to this. It's not all about putting money and finances in. It's getting a manager that can recruit well to make sure that we are competitive within our means. So I'm 100% happy that David and Tom are the right people to lead us through this. In terms of what we can do as a, if you like, a collective group, in terms of board, fans and club, simply we all have to be pulling in the same direction. We all have to be together on this, and we all have to be positive. And I think if we can get those elements right, then we're in for a good season next season.
Just touched on there, obviously, the positive impact that you want to make. Let's go on to the other hand. Now, there's this season, I think it will come with obviously the results, but there's been a lot of negativity surrounding the club. I think, you've received some yourself, but also, our chairman and certain members of the board as well have received certain comments and whatnot. How damaging is that really when, you've got a group of people on the board that clearly want to move forward, and yet, some people maybe not being on the same direction as you. Of course, we're doing this interview now to try and set the record straight, but how damaging is it to receive those negative comments and emails when really you do have the best interests of the club at heart?
Yeah, look, again, I share the frustration of people. I absolutely do. And people say, well, Mark's only been involved for a year or so and very much behind the scenes in the first 6 months of that. But, Weymouth Football Club has become part of the fabric in myself as well. And I count myself as a fan, so I can share that frustration, firstly. But, it doesn't help when you have certain quarters and certain people, and, maybe with agendas and maybe not, that are saying negative things about the club. I always have an adage in football, and I think it works across life, where these people are quite easy to spot. They'll rumour monger, they'll say things, maybe some misinformation out there, and plain old fashioned bad mouthing. But those people are quite easy to spot, where they don't have anything positive to say, but they also don't have any solutions or ideas themselves on how to take the club forward. And, as a board, and myself personally, if somebody came to me and, were critical of the way that the club was operating, but also had some constructive criticism in terms of being able to put some ideas over, then, of course, I'd listen and the rest of the board would listen. But I'm not finding that. I'm just finding that people are just pointing fingers and are being critical. And that doesn't help. Okay, I can take it. It's probably water off a duck's back with me. I've been around football for a long time. But, in terms of the overall atmosphere of the club, if you are a fan that wants the club to do well and you want to come to next season, maybe you don't want to because of the bad atmosphere around the club. Ditto with potential business commercial partners. And certainly I do believe that whatever happens on the pitch is a reflection of the club. So, I certainly don't want that to start affecting the players. And, this is a crucial time for David and his staff to recruit, to get things right. So, I just ask people out there, yes, I understand the frustration, but let's all pull together.
So let's go now from this point on, from this interview, but also until the start of next season. what is the short-term plan of this club to try and start the season in the best possible way?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, Ted. And I think, this pre-season we've got to use and utilise as a great opportunity, just not on the pitch, but also I think the club to re-engage with the community, to re-engage with the fan base, and to get people involved in the club at all levels. So, I think that's really important. And I want to start some initiatives in the pre-season that will be seen by the fans to be able, as a positive move forward by the club. So that will include things like a new ticketing system that we want to introduce to make it a lot more easy for fans to integrate their ticketing, to be able to get a ticket, and to be able to communicate with the club. I'd like to also launch a new fan app as well, which is really exciting, which fans can interact with each other, interact with the club, and also across all levels can buy a ticket, can go to the club shop, maybe even click and collect and pre-order a beer or a drink at the bar and then pick it up. So things like that, I think, helps with the fan experience. Stadium experience, I want, the Bob Lucas to have, a great atmosphere in the stadium. I want to welcome a more family-orientated atmosphere to the club, and really invite fans across all demographics and all areas. It has to be welcoming, and I think if we can get those elements right, that will be really, really crucial in terms of fan engagement. I also think that the club should be not just a every 2 week experience. It should be a 7-day-a-week experience. So if we can start to get the stadium used and utilised with more activities, more events, then I think that would really help integrate the club into the community.
So say if we, for example, do this interview now, and then from now until 5 years' time from now, given what hopefully would have happened, the changes that have been made under your sort of eye, what would you like to see the club now become in about 5 years' time from now?
Yeah, and I'll take your question now under my eye or part operational stewardship. I'll come out now and say that, and there has been rumours, by the way, that I'm running or would like to be chairman. I can categorically state that I'm not interested in, or have no desire, I should say, in becoming chairman. I back the current chairman, Ian White, 100%. In Ian being at the helm of the club. I think he is absolutely critical for the club in terms of its stewardship and its integrity. And if you look at Ian's record, he's gained 2 back-to-back promotions with the club, with his chairmanship. He's also helped, and it's been a difficult 2 seasons in the National League, but we've competed in the National League with Ian at the helm. And don't forget, one of those years has been through a global pandemic. So, it has been a difficult time. And I think, regardless of the relegation, Ian is crucial. We need stability at the club at this stage. We need firm building blocks. And, Ian is very much, for me, part of that foundation. So I'm happy to help and continue to help with the operation of the club under Ian's stewardship and Ian at the helm. My vision going forward, and I like to form that, I think one of the big areas, and again one of the sort of rumour mongering things that I picked up from the wider social media sphere and maybe some individuals, is that what is the club doing with the land and what's happening with the land? Well, from my point of view, first of all, the club has to get ownership of the land back, which it hasn't done completely. And then once it does, I view that land as being very much part of a central sporting hub for the community, where the club can be a leader for the community in that sporting arena. And working with organisations like the local authority and other organisations like Sports England, for example, that we can provide a really good sporting hub for our community across all age groups, across all demographics, and using the area around Bob Lucas Stadium is that catalyst. So I think that would help the club massively in the community, but also would help, if you like, protect the club's legacy, because the club has a home at the Bob Lucas, and I think once that's successfully done, then things will happen around that. I think we'll have a much firmer base, and we'll be able to look forward. In terms of on the pitch, I see no reason why we can't go back to the National League with the right structure, both on and off the pitch, and be competitive in that league, and operate very successfully both financially and on field. So that's kind of, if you ask me where we will be in 3 to 5 years, that would be the kind of broad vision that I would have.
Yeah, just to round this interview up then, it's been great to hear kind of exactly what the club can do to improve, but what would be your message to the fans? Of course, the fans are really as they say, the 12th man of this club. What
Absolutely.
Can they do to help push this club on, as well as the things that we'll be doing at board level and at club level?
Yeah, well, absolutely. Guys and girls, you've been fantastic all season. I mean, I've been to, I think, virtually all the away games, and the fans that have turned up have been absolutely fantastic. You are the 12th man. That's not me, using a cliche. I'm being really proud, actually, of the way that the fans have supported the club. They travelled a lot of miles. It's a national league. We appreciate that. Look, I mean, the spiralling cost of living and the fuel costs, it's not easy. So, I would say a big thank you. Continue your support, please. Keep the faith. Keep with us. But also, it's not just one way. We'd like to give something back as a club as well, and really want to provide the foundations for a winning team on the pitch, which obviously ultimately is why you go to the games, but also a much better structure and foundation for you to be able to come to a Weymouth game and to say, you know what, I really enjoyed that. Yeah, obviously winning is the main factor, but win, lose or draw, that you've enjoyed it, you can bring your friends and family and be proud of it. And that's really what I'd like to achieve at the club.
Mark Palmer, it's been great to speak to you this afternoon, and of course we're all looking forward to the first game of the season come August. So great to speak to you today.
Thanks, Ted, for your time as well. Thank you.